Good morning, folks. Okay, let's right side up. Gotta do the Jack Daniels test to make sure that the image isn't reversed. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Some more painting on Sunday morning. It's like, what day is it? It's not a work day. All right. And we were working on this guy right here, this particular horseman. And we didn't do the bow case, so let's go ahead and do the bow case on him. Now it seems like it'd be a pretty light colored bow case. So let's grab a fairly light color to do that. These Cote d'Armes are my favorite paints, but they're not my favorite bottles. Well, the bottle itself is okay, but the lid is not my favorite. The hinge broke off, and there's still plenty of paint left, and the hinge broke off, and so did the tab. So I guess nothing's perfect. I like the stuff inside, though. Let's get some of this over here, this area. Just try to put a little bit of designs on here. Nothing too complicated, but just something to make it stand out. I lost my paper towel. That's why we have a whole roll of it over here. Just for this occasion. I'm not sure I was using that. It might have been this one. Or this one. Yeah, there we go. A lot of people obsess about what size brushes do you use. Well, the brush size doesn't really matter. Well, I mean, it does to a certain degree. You can't use a massive brush, but the control and the tip that it has is more important than anything else. Sometimes you'll have a brush that's labeled, well, this is a pretty fine point. It's a 0 round. And there's ones that are a 5/0 or a 10/0 and they don't have a better tip. So there may be more quality control with more expensive brushes, but with these cheap ass things that I have, these brushes don't matter a whole lot. What the actual label of the size means, just go check them out. Because they're all different. Now, it may be different with really expensive brushes, but I am very, as I've mentioned before, I am very suspect of ordering or buying any brush sight unseen. We give it some kind of a focus, damn it. A little bit of a design there. Just something to add to it. There's nowhere in this town to buy any expensive brushes, quality brushes. There he is, my favorite Martian. Good morning to you, sir. Or happy brunch. Happy brunch time. All right, let's get that. I still have that color for the. Nah, it's when you're putting down, when you're watering down the color you're using on a wet palette, that's automatically saturating it with some water. You come over the next day and you notice that it is expanded all over the place, and only reason I'm doing this is it doesn't grow anymore, and I don't get enough use out of this wet palette. I paint pretty watered down, almost like thick watercolors. It just kind of happened that way. It's not like I'm trying to do it for a particular reason. It's just, I don't know, just kind of that's my thing. I didn't want to maybe cover up the details at some point, and I knew it was going to put a bunch of layers down. So that's just what I started doing. And it works for me. And that was before I used this wet palette thing, and then making it on a wet palette, I guess, waters it down even more. But I'm pretty happy with how it works for me. But that's one thing I've noticed is when you've got this, and this is pretty saturated. I don't know if you can see the moisture level, but as soon as you touch this, water comes to the surface. So it's pretty wet. Painting plans for the new year. I have no idea. Oh, Mr. Patriot, you're up early. It's 6. It's not that early. Painting plans for the new year. I don't know. Finish these guys. Somebody asked me, Chris Brantley asked me yesterday if I knew what army was next. I really don't. Because there's so many I'm interested in. So I try to get too excited about it. The next thing you know, I'll be like looking through figures and get out the lead and start sorting things and, stuff that's fun to do. Because I do think that that's fun, but it's stuff that I'm not going to be able to do anything with for several months. As I don't see this army being done until it could be June. It may be better than that, but it could be June. As I got Polish allies and stuff to do, we got to bump these. We got to be able to make these guys meatier if we need to. So that includes adding some Polish allies and so forth. We had a camp to do for them, which I don't think is going to paint really quick. I think it's going to take a little bit of time to work on that camp. So I'd like to get every aspect of these guys complete before I say, okay, they're done, and have to come back to working on these guys. So 2nd, 3rd, 4th Infantry Divisions of Waterloo, Museum Z doing medievals this year. Uh-oh. I also found out, I heard the other day, Coruscant is doing a series of figures around 1100. So I should build whatever army Coruscant already makes. So I don't go and paint an army and then, Coruscant makes these cool figures now for this army I just finished. I'm glad they're expanding. They went from, just making Coruscantian figures 10 years ago. That's about 10 years ago. To, I guess things are going well for him. Or he's addicted to sculpting figures and figure lines. There's been 2 or 3 armies that they've come out with without warning to me as soon as I was done with my own army. And I would have probably bought some figures from them to supplement my own. But after my army's done, well, that's no good for me. One of them is the Ottoman Turks, and French Ordnance is another one. And I think there's like 2 more armies that's happened. It's just, just coincidence. But I haven't gotten a chance to buy any of their figures yet. So and I got plenty of them. It's not like I'm going to build a whole army just of their figures. I'm going to supplement them with the other stuff that I like, just for figure variety. Now, some of their stuff is difficult to fit in. Like, some of their horses are really long. They're like the stretch limos of horses. I know some of them are sometimes a challenge to fit on a 30 millimeter deep stand because they are pretty stretchy. But I think they have separate horses, so I could just replace the horses with other horses that I don't think are so stretchy. And you never know. It depends on which sculptor they use, because they've got at least 4 or 5 different sculptors that do things for them. Once the market is saturated, you have to keep adding lines to make money. I don't know. Hopefully, I don't know how the hobby industry has been since the pandemic, but hopefully they're doing okay. I know people are still buying stuff to feed their habit. I luckily really don't need anything. I did order a few packs for this army from Essex, but it's just mainly the artillery crew. What was the artillery crew? I needed more skirmishers and the peasants, as I wanted the Eastern European peasants. I think that was it. It was just 3 packs. Could I have gotten around without them? Well, I needed the artillery crew. I didn't have an Eastern artillery crew, and it's one of those things that's not pictured on Essex's catalog. It's listed, but they don't have pictures of the Eastern European artillery crew. So we did get those guys. And I'm thinking this little part goes around his neck as part of his sleeves. Should be the same color. Let's go ahead and paint over that. Sometimes these figures, you don't know what articles of clothing stop in certain places and end in other ones. So you be prepared to repaint some things as you figure out what exactly constitutes the whole article of clothing. Horses describe a square. Their height is the same as the length of their torso. Really? So their torso is as long as they are tall. What about like a handicapped horse? I remember when Zyston miniatures first came out, and there's some of the nicest castings at 15 millimeter. One of the guys, some horse expert, had commented. It was probably on the miniatures page, way back when I went on that place. I don't go there anymore. I haven't been really on the miniatures page active since about 2006, 2007. Started turning into, I don't know if about a flame war, but it started getting nasty. They added too many forums to things that aren't miniature related. Like, I don't want to talk about food or politics or none of that stuff. And they had sub things for that. Anyways, one guy had mentioned that their horses were wrong because their hooves weren't touching at the right spot. And as soon as he said that, all of a sudden I can't look at their horses the same way. And their horse sculpts are beautiful, but the way they could be on a horse because they would fall off balance. And it hadn't dawned on me until he said it, and he basically ruined all the castings for me. And I forget exactly what the configuration it was, but you have Coruscant cataphracts for your early Imperial Rome army. Yeah, they just showed up on the scene too late. For me, I already had too many. I already had too many commitments. Because you can't just take this lead and sell it. Nobody wants it. I guess you could give it away, but then I'm just rebuying stuff. And I'm not a keeping up with the Joneses kind of guy. You need to be happy with what you have, not always trying to chase the next new thing. That's not my personality. I find that very wasteful, and you're never going to be happy, Now, if the figures you do have, you hate or they suck, well, that's different. But just to get rid of everything you have, and render it useless, when you have perfectly serviceable stuff is not in my not something I like to do. Is that being thrifty, or is it keeping yourself on a short leash? I consider it keeping yourself on a short leash. It's like a TV, okay? We've got a TV we've had for, I'm going to say 8 years. It may not have been that long. It may be longer. It may be 10. I lose track of time now. What is it? 2021. So 10 years would have been 2011. I don't know. We've had for over 5 years for sure. Okay. I forget what it is. 60-inch, something like that. It's a 55 or a 60. It's a flat. It's not 4K. It's the first TV we had that was 1080i. And just because they come out with 4K doesn't mean I'm going to buy a 4K TV, because I just render this TV that works perfectly fine useless. I don't have a place to put two of those TVs. We don't watch that much of it. And so I'm basically taking something serviceable and rendering it useless. And just because there's a latest thrill. Same thing with cell phones, you know. Just because a new cell phone comes out. I know somebody who every time a new phone comes out, they have to have it. And that's like, man, you're always chasing that. You're never going to be happy, you know. I mean, they're in the business of making more shit all the time. So what are you going to do? Buy a new cell phone every year? I mean, so, you know, we're filming with a cell phone. When it dies, yes, we will go out and buy the latest and greatest one, because what I had before died. And, you know, it'll last longer if you buy it'll be useful for a longer period of time. Same thing with computers and stuff like that. But I'm not going to render something that works perfectly fine useless just because there's something else to replace it with that's better. That's not my personality. Merry Christmas, Tony, and to all your viewers. You too, Harvey. 10 years old. Yeah. I don't know. It's hard doing this time of year in Florida. I guess it's hard even though I've lived in Florida my whole life. It's like 80 degrees outside. It's completely dark, right? Because it's before dawn, and it's 66. This is as cool as it's going to get today. And it does get cold here, but not in December. We've had Christmas where it's been almost 90 degrees before. And yeah, that's not very Christmas-like, you know. But I guess it's better than being snowed in and have to shovel your way out during this time of year, so. I've seen people posting pictures of snowy things already, and I'm like, man, I wish I was there. But I am glad nobody's using the heater. But anyway, to get back to what I was saying, Kyrgyzstan's come out with some figures that I think would be a nice addition to ones that I already have to work them in my army, but they've come out right after I've finished the army, so I'm not going to go and expand it or what have you. Just be happy with what you have, man. I don't know if social media is the best thing for that. There's always people that are trying to one up other folks. Just be happy with what you have. Somebody else gets something nicer than you have. Be happy for them. That's my kumbaya lesson that you guys probably already know, but there's not enough of that in the world. There's too much. Now, if the guy's an asshole, You know, if you know some guy and he's already had this stuff out, and he's an asshole, and he gets something nice, yeah, you don't have to be happy for him. But if you've never met him, I had not last night, night before last. I ended up eating too close to my bedtime, and you know when you eat too close to your bedtime, you end up getting really vivid dreams that you remember. And I had a really interesting dream night before last. It involved something like this part of a group of like 4 mercenaries, and we're trying to hold back like folks that were trying to, like a native uprising or something like that was trying to take over the country, and we're trying to get people out, and eventually we're like, okay, well, we're either going to die here or we need to fall back, and we decided to fall back, and just really strange, something almost like a situation that might have happened in Rhodesia or something like that. I don't know. And then it reminded me of the Force on Force Rhodesian War. What is it, the Bush Wars expansion that I have? One of these days I'll get around to maybe playing Force on Force, but played it a couple times. There's things about it I like, things about it I don't like. But that's what happens when you have your meal too close to bedtime. What am I looking for? This brush cleaner, because we got some little grit on here I want to take off. A well-painted army beats nice minis in a bag. Absolutely, every time. And they're complete. Why would I want to go back and revisit them? You know? I got other armies to paint. There's no reason to keep upgrading. This isn't going to take much of this just to get some of this. But I don't know if the hobby companies are doing. I suspect they're doing better than they have in recent years, just because a lot of people have just either been forced to or chosen to stay home. And have more time for hobbying. I'm not sure. If they're doing well, then maybe the good news is that this scare crap isn't going to end anytime soon. So maybe it's good news for hobby companies. Scare crap. It's just people that are genuinely running around scared and worried. I'm not one of those, so I'm not being terrorized by the media. So I'm not licking doorknobs either, but if my conditions at work were something that were affected by the pandemic negatively, I mean, we have supply issues with trying to get materials and stuff in, but other than that, there's plenty of work. There's plenty of work to do. But I forget it's going on. I really do. And I don't live in a metropolitan area. I don't live in a place that has many restrictions. So, thank goodness, because I got enough on my plate with just the normal stuff that happens at work, which fortunately I don't really think about when I'm not there. But I don't read the news. And a perfect example is I'll go in the morning, I'll get up, I'll go to my things I do before I go online here, which involves going to the bathroom, and I check and see what the latest thing is on the sites that I follow. And invariably, you get to the front page of the internet, and it's telling you all the stuff to be scared about today. And I'm not talking about the pandemic stuff. I mean, you know, meteor comes closer than it's ever been to the Earth, and then you go in and start reading, and it's 10 times it's within the distance. It's between the sun and Mercury or some shit like that, where it's still like forever away. It's like, oh, you think you're done being scared about everything. Well, here's a few other things you haven't thought about panicking about. It's like they never have any good news to tell you. Oh, you think you're done worrying? Well, check this out. You know, that voodoo doesn't work on me. That's sensationalism, and I haven't watched. I don't watch news in many many years because of that. I just call them out on it. Oh, too bright. There we go. face done. Boots. Oh, he's on a dark horse, so we should have light colored boots on this guy. Let's get this color over here. Time to get this crust paint on here. I don't know how the hell this happens. This is a significant amount of paint here, and it's not that any spillage. And that's actually quite a bit of paint. Let's put that there. We'll let that dry out a little bit. Probably come in contact with one that's wet. We don't want to get this stuff everywhere. I'd have to say that this material that this is made out of is pretty much non-stick when it can come out looking like that. Every paint container has weaknesses. There's not one that's perfect. Say this stuff is pleasant smelling, but I don't know that it has much of a smell. Good old coat d'arms. Of all the paints I have, it definitely mixes up the best. Like, you shake the bottle and it gives you the best mix. Now, maybe some of that paint's going into that area I just cleaned off, and that's the weakness of it, but it definitely seems to. I never have to stick something in there and mix it up. Vallejos sometimes don't want to mix up properly, depending on which color you're using. So why is that there's more of you guys on Sunday morning than on Saturday morning? Not a lot more, but I'd say, 25% more seems like it. I don't know, maybe you guys have to do honeydew list first. Hard to do honeydew anything Monday through Friday. There's not enough time to do anything else. I'm just trying to get by. Didn't get a chance to go to the stores much yesterday, but seems like everything was closing around 8 p.m., which is crazy considering it's the Saturday before Christmas. But hey, there's your new normal. In the past, it would have stayed up till 11 o'clock. You know, I just figured they'd be open at least to the old school time of closing things, 9. Nope, places were closing an hour early. Okay. Got the boots done on him. You got a scabbard to put on here. It's just peeking around there. It's, I'm not real particular about what color that has to be, so you could probably use something that's already out here. Let's use this red leather. And just lighten it up from there. You don't need to add more of the red leather. It can be a brownish type color. This really doesn't have much of a tip, this brush here. It's getting frayed. Okay. Odds I'd probably use it a really, really long time. Because I probably got all these brushes, I don't know, 6 years ago or something like that. I haven't set foot in a Walmart in about 3 years, maybe 4. So several years ago, and I still haven't gotten to the end of them. That's how many I bought in advance. All right, let's touch up the black on his mustache, and then we'll move to his hat. I get all this paint everywhere. All right. Four more work days and I'm done for the next rest of the year. So tomorrow's going to be a pain in the ass. And the last day is going to be a pain in the ass. So Monday's just been bad for 3 months. Easy, so gaming on Monday is a no go. I'm not going to start the gaming at 8 p.m. You know, that's the gist of it. Yes, I could have played. No, I'm not going to start filming stuff at 8 p.m. Because on top of that, it's, other people have to wait around until I get there, and it's just not really conducive to doing that. I don't need to game and film that badly where I need to do all that and then roll into a work day the next day. So there's a day coming up where I should be able to game. It's not this year though. It's in 2022, so we'll see. To be continued. Okay. That's pretty much done. This guy at the point where we need to move to the other ones. It's the fourth semi-complete. All right, let's do something a little different. I talked about possibly doing this yesterday and I didn't get around to it. Let's start fooling with this. This is going to be a multi-step thing, so this is a Castle brand, supposedly from Arkham Enema, Etsy shop. They do architectural type models, and we're gonna have to prime this, so let's go ahead and roll into that. I would not want to use spray paint for this. Now this is going to end up getting attached to something else down here, but I guess I should probably take a picture of this before I started on it. Well, I'm not going to disconnect and do all that crap, so we're just going to roll with it. Got to be careful opening this thing up. It's like a loaded gun. Wow, there's a lot of overpour on here. Look at this big old chunk. Let's use a bigger brush. We're never going to finish. Get this in a position that now I'm going to actually do some artistic licensing on it. This is a real place that is a tourist attraction. Go figure, right? And you can go online and see pictures of it. And it's very Italian looking in that the walls are damn near white and the roof sections are almost like a terracotta color. So I am not going to go as terracotta-ish as it is in real life because it just doesn't look right. So they are still going to be brown-like, but I don't think I'm going to go as terracotta. The other thing is like, okay, that's what it looks like now. What did it look like in the 15th century? Because that's what we're interested in. So who knows? So there's going to be some artistic license that I'm going to have to invoke. And this may take 2 coats in a couple areas, but this stuff's pretty amazing in that it's not thick and it's self-leveling and all kinds of stuff. So hey, again, I'm hopped around. I was tired of painting those light horse, but I'm not working on another army. I'm still working on the same army, so I allow myself that kind of flexibility. But not go and work on another army. That's just that's absurd. Can't do that. And I used to do that crap when I was doing plastic models. 1/35th scale stuff. I'd start working on something and then, come across some decision that I needed to do. I got analysis paralysis and just said, oh, I'll buy another kit and take it to the same point too. So I'd have 12 kits for every one that I finished. Really unsatisfying doing that way. Operating in that fashion. Now, one of these walls, this one in particular, this one here, in real life is like brick. So it's brown looking. I don't know if I'm going to go do that. I'll try and see how it looks. It may actually look wrong. So sometimes when things look wrong, I'll put my own spin on it. But that's supposedly a fully brick wall. Or, you know what? They're probably all bricked. That one just has the brick showing instead of having a covering on it. Or use a brown brick type color instead of a stone like light gray, which is what most of this building looks like. You can look it up there. Castle Bran, like bran flakes. And it's a tourist attraction there. In Romania. Romania. Yeah, it's going to take 2 coats. For sure, for sure. Make sure we get the first coat everywhere. There's some new Dracula movie that came out. Actually, several of them. I haven't really watched any of them. I'm sure they have a lot of the vampire stuff in there, which I'm not particularly interested in. I don't know that I've seen a Dracula movie other than the Bram Stoker one from what, 1991? 1990? 91? Something like that. Not sure if that other movie counts. That I can't think of. Van Helsing. Not sure that counts as a Dracula movie. Okay. Obviously, I use too much, which is always the case. I forgot this stuff covers really, really well. We may need to put a second coat once that's completely dry on there in some of those places. That courtyard in the middle there is going to be a bitch to get to. But I've had worse. So we'll let Castle Bran flakes dry there for a little bit. All right. So we're fairly completed with these 4 horses, other than the details. That leaves us with 2 more of these light horses. You get the same similar stupid pose, but I'm tired of looking at that thing. How long have I been on here? Exactly an hour. have to break and get some proper breakfast. Spent all day yesterday being hungry. Hey, what can I say? I like to eat. Looks like we missed some spots here with the black. Let's go ahead and touch that stuff up while we have this stuff here. Nothing worse than having a little bit of black showing somewhere you don't need it to. We'll touch up these guys too. These are the calf figures for the general stand. Let's see if you've missed anything on the big man himself. Actually, a nice casting, one-piece casting. I don't know if this is supposed to be Dracula himself, but you will in this army. I'll be right back. checking to see if the rest of the people are going to be up for breakfast. Need some coffee to get going today. Or something like that. Well, okay. Let's put these guys back because we're not there yet. We got to work our way up to the really cool nobles in the army. I practice keeping things away from myself so that I'm motivated to paint them later. So we have a horse here. Do we have a light gray one yet? No. No, we're going to make this guy light gray. Okay, this stuff can certainly come off here now, right? We just put it on here just because it was... Oh, no. Oh, look, there was moisture and there was wetness on there. We'll let that percolate there and we'll wipe it up in the morning or whatever. That's why I didn't want to just throw it here on my paper towel and then it get everywhere. What color is this? Light gray. Oh, okay. Gris pálido. Technically, that would be pallid gray. Alright, let's go in here and paint the whole horse. Something like this. Didn't mix enough of that stuff. Good morning. Getting coffee and discuss Monday night gaming. Certainly it's down to difficult balancing work gaming time. Look forward whenever you get to do some more. Yeah. Yeah, it just becomes there's many factors in it. The biggest factor is just knowing that I have something that I have to get to by a certain time. I call it getting sandwiched. When you got to be somewhere by a certain time and you got to be done by a certain time. And there's lots of factors that involve, like my job isn't just I go in and do what I need to do to get done, right? Because I could just come in, say, okay, this is a day that I need to leave by 6 p.m. or something like that. I just come in early, get it done. It's relying on other people to do their job and then checking it. And sometimes they just take forever, and that's what's happened is it's been a late finish and there's a lot of variables under my control. And there's the stress of, well, what if we're not going to get done on time and all that stuff. So just knowing that there's something that I have to get to after work by a certain time, I've got to leave and then go home and then eat something and then change because I don't want to be in my work clothes because I love it. I work in a hot, dusty environment. That's the first thing I want to do is change. Just knowing that you have that is extremely stressful when there's so many variables that are just out of your control. And it's just really frustrating, for instance, to have a day that's light, like a Thursday. Thursdays tend to be a light day because Fridays tend to be light, and Thursday we do stuff the day before to ship out, and it's just really frustrating to have a day like Thursday. It's really light where it would be it would be an easier day to get off early, but it's also a day of the week that I got to stay until the whole shop is done, and Mitch isn't available, and he's just available on the wrong days for the workload that I have right now. So, and yes, I could have gamed on all those Mondays, but I wouldn't have been able to show up until like maybe 7:30, and you can't expect everybody else to just hang out for an hour. And like I said, just knowing that I have that to get to is extremely stress-inducing. So the fact that I just said, you know what, it's just going to be impossible to get there at a decent time. I'm not going to game this Monday. Just like relieves so much pressure on me you couldn't believe. So it's more for you guys than for me. It's not like I'm dying to game. It's more like, let's get another video out. But to do that, it would involve running around, the stress of who knows if I'm going to get there on time, and then if I do get there, having to edit the video and putting it out. So it's just too much. It's just too much right now. So the next time we game, it's a day that I'm not working at all. So it should be able to work out pretty well coming up in the next, let's say 3 weeks. I forget exactly how it is, but it's not like I'm dying to game. Let's put it that way. So, work, pay bills, take care of spouse, help clean house, take care of Chihuahua. Well, I know how to get rid of the Chihuahua problem. Then sit down and paint. I enjoy watching all the different players, playing styles, and the videos are both educational inspiration. My Christmas present to myself this season is a Visigoth army from Gripping Beast. I don't do 28mm, but Gripping Beast stuff is very inspirational. I really like the sculpting that those folks do. But again, just relieving the pressure off of knowing that I have to get somewhere at a certain time on the busiest day of the week, which also happens to be the same day where Mitch doesn't have anything to do. It's just too much. It's like the extremes. So we'll get back to gaming. Not like we had a lover spat or anything like that. It's got nothing to do with that. It's just too much. It's just too much at this time. So So much so that I have vacation days I wasn't able to use this year. I thought I was going to be able to use them and say, okay, well, I'll just take a Monday off and we'll do some filming. And I can't. You know, we had some project that happened at the last minute. As a matter of fact, tomorrow we've got 300% more loads than normal just on one day, and then it just turns around to go back to normal. So it's always fun to watch Mitch lose. Well, it only happens about half the time. I don't know if we could be closer to 50-50. I guess we could, but I think we're split by like 12 games or something like that. I lead him by 12 games, but we've played almost 1,000 games, so I don't know if it could be any tighter. But I guess I don't mind losing to him when I do. So it's I need to sit down one day and just sit there and go, okay, what's he gonna do, and how do I play? But I just don't play that way. I just don't. I mean, maybe if I was playing against somebody I absolutely hated, and I had to try to find every single way to try to win, maybe I'd be more worried about beating them, and maybe I would, get say 10% more wins against them. But I just don't care that much. I just kind of play my own game. I'm not trying to play some kind of deception game or something like that. Maybe I should just change my playing style and see if he pays attention. It's not like he's watching this video, getting any pointers. I don't mind losing to him enough. The game. Winning the game isn't important enough when you're playing against someone that you don't mind being around and has a good attitude. He really does have a good attitude. If anybody has a bad attitude between the both of us, it's me. But I have played games against people I do not want to lose against. A couple of people come to mind, and fortunately, I don't play with those folks anymore. But he's definitely not one of those folks. So Mitch's son seems to be a successful general when he gets to play. I don't know. He's I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't want to be with him in Vegas. Let's put it that way. He's definitely a gambler. But he doesn't sit around and play all defensive, which nobody wants to see that. You guys want to see crazy stuff happen and knights charging elephants and yeah, he moved away to another town about an hour and a half away, and he's got kids, and he doesn't get away as much as he'd like to, I think. But he was coming pretty regularly, but he was also living in town, and then just had an issue with his job where he couldn't get off at a certain time. He was having the issues I was having, or I'm having. Well, maybe a little differently, because he's not filming, so he can afford to come in later. But if we're going to film the battle, I kind of have to be there at the beginning, you know what I'm saying? Or, hey, you guys just got here. You guys just missed the best battle of all, and it was done while I wasn't filming it. Nobody wants to hear that. So I don't really know what Mitch's playing style is. Like I said, maybe if I cared to beat him, if it was more important for me to beat him, I'd be more worried about it. But, my life's not exactly depending on it. So I'm not one of those folks that goes and tries to learn a new game and then spring it on other people so I could beat them. The fun in me is to us figure it out together. I like being challenged and winning about half the time, 51% of the time. So if you're already going to win, I'm not really interested in that. If it's foregone conclusions, I'm just not my thing. And I know people that are the opposite. They want to study, study, study. So they spring this thing, and all of a sudden they're like the expert. But you know, I don't need to win in a make believe game bad enough to pull those kind of things. I mean, I've heard of people that have learned how to play DBA with folks, and they don't teach them the whole game just so they can spring stuff on them. And like, that's not how you keep your folks around for other. If you want to keep people interested, they got to feel like they got a chance to win as well. You know, if it's going to be a cakewalk for you, that's no fun to be the other guy. I don't know. Maybe I look at things differently than most folks, but honest, generally speaking, Mitch plays not to lose. Mitch's son is all in. You start conservative and you start conservative and then go for it. If I was a play-by-play analyst, yeah, I'm aggressive, but I don't like to take risks generally. But then it just gets to a point where it's like, okay, you can't keep going down this. You know, you got to give a little bit. So you know, you find where your best odds are and go. I don't consider myself defensive, but definitely I'm conservative. He plays not to lose. So you think he's more conservative than I am? I don't know. I like to not take risks when I can, but I like to pick which units are not gonna cause me to lose the game. It's cool that we all have our own preferences. I know Mitch really likes knights. I'm not a huge fan of them. Love to paint them. They're cool looking. I just don't like how they decide to miss. They screw you when they win sometimes, you know. So I'm not a huge fan of them. I like a little bit more control. He doesn't seem to mind them. I don't mind them as a counterpunch. I just don't like to hit with the knights right off the bat. So you still can't get him to like artillery. I don't know. He's got this phobia of artillery. I don't want 12 artillery stands. I just, it's good to have one of every tool because you never know when you're going to use it. Never know when you're going to need it. I'm always surprised by how many people I play in any kind of game, and they're just so superstitious about dice rolls and stuff like that. Like, I piss on superstition. I gotta switch dice. No. The dice wants to be a slacker. It's gonna be rolling well. Not like, well, it wants to take a day off. I'll just roll like crap. Nope. Screw you. I used to pick dice based on what it looked like for the army. So I use a Roman army. I'd use a Roman numeral die. I'd use an army that was mostly red. I'd use a die that was mostly red. Stuff that went with the theme. Now I like using that pink die. I don't know. It stands out. At first, it was like, it'd be nothing. It'd be a lot of fun to whoop somebody's ass with a pink die, and then that's kind of since that's the norm, I've kind of even forgotten about that. But people are very superstitious about that crap. Nick doesn't move forward until he has his battle line or redeployed. He attacks where he has advantages and holds back elsewhere. Huh. You rely too much on the favorite of dice gods. Yeah, I like my shooters to start doing damage to them and then capitalize on that one side. But one thing that I don't know if I put a whole lot of thought into it or it's just kind of my nature. I feel like one of the most important things you can do is control the pace of the battle. You can't just set up all your stuff and then kind of go, you got to like, okay, this is what we're going to do and we're going to go with these guys and you're going to have to react to what I'm doing. Like I want to go over here and you want to go over here, then I want to get my stuff going. And sometimes you just can't do it, because you guys aren't deployed in the right way or the pips aren't working your way. But generally, whoever controls the pace of the game, I'll leave it has a better time. Okay, because I'd rather control the pace of the game and lose than be at the mercy of the other guy and I just happen to win because you're being tortured the whole time. Controlling the pace of the battle is really important, and you sometimes have battles that way. You've got sometimes the strongest elements of both sides don't get into combat. You end up getting the skirmishers and the light horse end up being the ones that do the fighting. It just kind of happens that way. Just because of the pip gods, I've seen many battles where the heavy hitters don't even get involved. It's the other guys that are in it. That's pretty interesting. That's pretty interesting that something like that can happen. And it's only possible because you can't control how many pips you roll. Have it happen a couple turns in a row for you, and then it really makes a difference on what elements actually get engaged in your army versus the ones that you may actually want to use. So, one of those unique things that make the game what it is. It's not perfect, but it has some really interesting dilemmas that you sometimes have to deal with, which add a lot of flavor. But I definitely enjoy talking about what I'm trying to do in a game out loud more than keeping it to myself and try to pull a fast one on somebody because I just don't need to beat them that bad. And it's nice. I call it self-coaching. You talk yourself into, okay, well, I'm going to do this because I want this guy over here. I don't want him over there. And it helps you, I don't know, kind of put your thoughts into what you're going to do. And I'm sure it benefits the people that are watching, wondering, well, why the hell did he do that? Oh, that's why. Well, I still wouldn't have done that, but at least you understand why I'm doing it. I like that. I like doing that a lot. That's why I'm not really a fan of playing games and not being filmed, because I don't feel like I need to do that verbalization. And the verbalization part is a lot of fun for me. I bet I do a lot more of it than anybody else, and I've probably screwed myself maybe in a few situations. People are like, oh, that's what he's trying to do. I don't know, maybe not. I don't worry about it too much. I've played hundreds of games against these folks, so if they haven't figured out what makes me tick, then, verbalizing certainly isn't going to lead me down any worse of a road than I've already dug for myself. But it's fun for me. I enjoy verbalizing it. I was a sinister individual, and it was so important to win. I could be verbalizing non-true intents to see if my opponent would catch on to them and then to pull a fast one. But it's just, as the saying goes, it's easier to keep your lies straight when you don't tell any. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. Maybe if I was more salesy, was more of a sales weasel, I could do that stuff. But it's just a lot easier just being honest. Like I said, I don't really mind losing against any of these folks, so I don't need to try that hard. You know, it really is a social experiment, anyways. So all games need play-by-play. Yeah, it's fun. It's fun to do. And it's too much work to do it after the fact. I know I've mentioned that guy. That my favorite YouTube channel is this guy that does this diecast car racing. It's called 3D Bot Maker, and the quality of his filming and editing is superb for something that uses Hot Wheels cars. And there's commentary on top of it and all kinds of stuff. And you know that the video that he shoots takes like 10 minutes. And I know he's working multiple hours, tens of hours. I'll leave it at that. I don't know exactly how long, tens of hours editing it. There's just too much work. It's just easier just to kind of, do things on the fly. And you guys get to see the crazy stuff that happens when we get to see the crazy stuff that happens. And sometimes some surprising things happen, but it's not edited after the fact, But that guy spends, I think he does some kind of video editing for a living anyway. So it would be a lot easier for him to do it than me. But it's a lot of time. He's got multiple cameras and editing all that stuff, and then exporting it. That takes for freaking ever. So, but he's got a lot of viewers, and he has an excellent channel. But that's a lot of work. A lot of work that I wouldn't consider fun. Like this takes forever to paint one of these armies. It really does. But it's not unpleasant while I'm doing it. It's unpleasant if I've got like a timetable to do it by, but these guys will get done when they get done, and then we'll work on the next group of guys. But to have a timetable, they got to be done by the third Sunday of the, that's just too much. That's too much for me. It starts to become unfun. I mentioned before, I will continue doing videos until they become too much of a pain in the ass to do. And then we won't do them. So I don't see that happening anytime soon, but again, I can't film videos when I can't film videos, or it just isn't possible. Historical gaming to me is a chance to participate in some good historical fiction. I agree. You get to try to influence the outcome. In the end, the game tells a story as opposed to a chess match. I'd rather go to work than play chess. I think chess is... I am the wrong person for chess. Both sides start the same, and I just don't. I'm not a look in advance type person. I'm just not programmed that way. You know, wasted planning. I have to do too much of that in real life. Yeah, it's a way to participate in history. Well, in your own little history. So these guys are going to be drabbish, but also colorfulish. I know. In between both of them. But you may tinker with a horse a little bit more, but we're going to go ahead and give this guy black boots. I actually found some artistic ideas for these Wallachian guys, and they had black boots, so I know it's probably unusual. I mean, why would they not leave them in the natural color? But regardless, we're going to give this guy black boots. So let's go ahead and paint that. I didn't want to do it on the dark horse. Needs to pop a little bit more than that. Yeah, that's one of the draws for the historical games for me is you get to participate in the history. If it's just fantasy, then, you know, it doesn't have that draw for me. Doesn't have that draw for me, so. And that might be an appeal for other people, but fantasy just doesn't do it for me. Science fiction doesn't do it for me. I don't really like either venue very much. Just not my thing. Okay, so color of coat. What would happen if I used this color? Nauseating blue. I think this is one that's actually dyed. This is actually a Games Workshop color, I think that dyed. A Citadel color. Let's see if we can poke the bear. See what happens here. Yeah, it's half-assed dead. I'd call this thing dead. Might be able to salvage something from it. See what we can do. Stuff's about dead, so I got nothing to lose on this. Let's drop 2 drops in here. Well, geez. 4. I dropped in 4. And not go crazy. And let's see if we can. I'm the paint necromancer. We might be able to salvage this. All right, let's do something a little different. Let's see if we've got one of those mixing balls around here. should be here. I have a little cart that all my hobby stuff is in. The problem is that things can run together. So you put something there and then it slides somewhere else, and then it's an organized mess, so to speak. But it's a lot better than not having this little... Let's put a mixing ball in here. Let's see what happens here. I gotta be careful it just doesn't leak. I don't know the last time I used this color. It's probably the 1990s, honestly. Let's see what we're looking at now. Well, it doesn't look much better. Yep. You get in one of those paint shakers. I don't know, are those things worth a damn? I haven't ordered one of them. I wouldn't want to get one from China, so. Skylab, there he is, Captain Utah. I agree with Mike B. It's the story that gets me involved in a game. Like fantasy and science fiction if the story is compelling. History is more compelling to me than either of the others. Yeah. The problem with fantasy is sometimes magic plays too big a role for me. I don't really care for that. I don't mind the monsters and stuff, but magic becomes too powerful. It becomes a little too out of the realm of things I'm interested in. And the problem with science fiction is there's always something, always a problem with the correlation between between futuristic and technology available. Like, I'm going to use Battletech as an example, because it's definitely a science fiction I played the most. You know, you've got hundreds of years in the future, but these vehicles are less accurate than the stuff that we have now. So, paint shakers are very handy. Is there a brand that you'd recommend of the paint shakers? I haven't had much of a... They got to be quiet too, because we don't want to fire one of those up in a sleepy house. You know what I mean? So, I think we have enough of this color to move forward with. Let's see what we get. I may end up actually hating this color, the way it looks, but we'll at least give it a shot. Let's get some black over here. Need to have one that has like an adjustable strap or something like that, so you could use different bottles. We'll see how this turns out. This guy has a feather in his hat, so not only has he got one of those woolen hats, but it's got like a feather in it, so maybe he's higher up on the pecking order than most of the other guys. One of the most important aspects, in my opinion, for gaming, whether it's historical or fantasy or something like that, is honestly dice, rolling your own dice. I think it's a huge part of it. I don't mind card-driven games that have cards in them, but when you go to combat and stuff like that, I want actually to roll dice. I want some chances of randomness to be able to be appeared, and just having a random card pull just isn't the same. I don't have a lot of confidence in a card deck being mixed up randomly enough. They just never seem to be random enough compared to die rolls. I like dice, and I like rolling my own dice. So using like a dice generating number or something, that's just not my cup of tea. You know, I like to roll my own dice. It's just something you can do to put your own spin on it. You know, I don't believe there's any kind of hidden talent that I roll it better than other people. It's just the idea of it. You know, so. And I used to play with a group that had a fair number of guys that did not like dice. They were like dice panicked, or they liked card driven. And first of all, I'm a terrible card shuffler. I've watched a couple of videos on YouTube, figured, okay, well, I'm a big YouTube fan. I've learned how to do many things with that. And figured, well, this will be the opportunity. Nope, I don't have the genes possible to shuffle cards. So, you know, I do a poor job of it, and it takes me an extremely long time to do it. I'm just not a card fan of that. So, I'm definitely I like to use the dice, for sure. But lots of people are really superstitious. I didn't actually know that there's actually a fair amount of people that have been caught cheating with dice. It never occur to me to do that. I mean, it's just a game. If you're cheating, what's the point in even playing? It's not like it's real life and your life depends on it or something like that. It's just you know, you got to have some kind of an honor code, you know. Otherwise, at what point do you stop being a rogue, you know? But no point in playing a game if you already know you're going to win. But I guess other people have different MOs than I do. But somebody was telling me about this guy that got banned at a big convention by using a die that was a cheating die, and he apparently was. I didn't see it. This was before I got involved in going to conventions on a regular basis, and this guy got banned from using a die. And somehow he was sneaky about how he switched it out. He had one that was fake and one that wasn't, and he got caught on it or whatever. And what is the freaking point? How satisfying it is. Oh, you won another tournament. Well, no shit. You know you're cheating. I don't know. Would never occur to me. Would never occur to me to do something like that. That's the fun. It would take the fun out of it for me. Anyway, it also take the fun out of me if I'm playing against somebody and they're cheating. It's kind of a two-way street. But as the person that would be initiating it, why would I even bother doing that? I already know what the outcome's going to be. Different folks have maybe your life sucks and you have to try to make up for it in a game. I don't know. Not really sure. I'm just glad that happened at a time when I wasn't around, because that would have been really sucky. And it explains why I haven't seen this person around anymore. Two people, actually. It didn't happen in Florida. That doesn't mean there aren't any cheaters here. They just weren't involved. That was anything I was with. Fortunately, that'd be a real bummer. This might actually be a little too purplish. Didn't look like it was that purpley, and now it's starting to go the way of the purple. Starting to look like Grimace from McDonald's. That purple fat bastard. hear some noises. I think it's time to check on some people. Hold on 1 second. Okay, well, it's breakfast time, so we're gonna get the. Oh, we got some other comments. What do we got here? Da-da-da-da-da-da. Get into my belly. There you go. I've always found the characters used by burger companies to be a bit freaky. I don't know. I grew up with that stuff. I don't have a clown problem. Burger King at midnight. Yeah. Well, you know, I don't do drugs, but maybe some of these people that created the characters did, and then maybe it all makes sense then. But as I like to say, you know, just because we're a drug-free workplace doesn't mean some of the people that we deal with are drug-free workplaces. Anyhow, breakfast beckons. So we're going to. How long did we do? Almost 2 hours. So maybe we'll be back on later today. I do not know. And we'll get to see how this grimace color is. We'll try to make it work. I think it'll be all right. And tinker with it a little bit. Keep it from being too loud. But okay. Well, thanks for stopping by, folks. And enjoy your Sunday if I don't see you later on. And we'll catch you next time. See ya.